Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. I feel like I should put some lipstick on or something.
Here, let me look because you're usually so amazing.
Honey, I'm on speaker.
Oh.
Hi.
That was an
It's just
offer.
me. It doesn't matter.
Well, glad I kept it PG.
He's all, why didn't you eat your lunch? And I'm like, because I was eating cookies. They were delicious.
I'm glad they held up. I wasn't sure. I've never made those round ones before. The
They were yummy.
Sprinkles. Cool.
I mean, the what is it called? Biscotti was off the chain. We were like, let's open everyone's boxes and just take the biscotti, like a piece of biscotti out of each one. And then we're like, oh, she's really smart. She sealed them. We can't steal cookies. I left something that's food sensitive, kind of. It's food on your desk.
Oh,
So I don't know if you want to stop by.
I think it's out there.
I'm really hoping this is less than 1 hour.
Hang on one second. It's
Okay.
in clean clothes.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I took that out.
I'm coming in on Thursday because Kevin deposited a check. I'm just gonna come in like for 10 minutes and do the whole report thing. And then if anybody else has checks by the end of the week, that way I get one last deposit into the town before everything closes down.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave's here. Oh no, it's my boss. I didn't expect my boss to be watching.
Oh no, I'm not here. You guys keep going. I got stuff to do. You keep talking. I won't listen.
Quick, Dennis, get me a glass of wine.
Thank you for switching
that's
over to
your
this
sale.
tricky format.
Your boss is here.
What, Dave? I'm sorry.
Thanks for switching over to this crazy format you're using now.
Oh
No
no.
problem.
The webinar,
Was-
yeah, it just makes sense.
Was it easy, Christina?
Oh yeah, it's yeah. I didn't know that.
No, it was not a problem. It was not an issue at all. It's just I just know, what kind of ticked off was the fact that we had someone show up on the screen who was a visitor. I'm like, what? I didn't realize you weren't doing it. So this way the visitors will be in the participant box
Got it.
as attendees, which makes more
Attendees, right. Okay.
Not that you guys have much public participation, but
I think that was the first time anybody had participated.
exactly. Well, that was the funny part of it,
Yeah.
Jesus, light is so bright.
Interesting to see if anyone shows up tonight.
Yeah, totally.
So my plan is just to read through the staff report and then turn it over to Public Works. Sean said he didn't know if it would be him or Scott.
Hopefully they remember. Otherwise, I think we can kind of wing it.
I talked to Sean at like 3 and he
Oh,
said
fantastic.
one
Okay.
of them would be on.
Right. Yeah, we dealt with a issue yesterday and today regarding a church that was having indoor services, and Ford agreed to an interview, and it was crazy. Now I just saw it on the news, and I think
I
it's
saw
all
that
from-
on the news too. I was like,
Oh, you're
what?
kidding. Yeah, so that was, wow, I don't know anybody that watches local news. It was
I
funny.
literally just just did it right now. Like,
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so it was, luckily it sounds like they'll be compliant. They, it's a Seventh-day Adventist church, so I guess they went to the headquarters and said, did you know one of your churches was doing this? So that kind of made them, I was worried because it's a Latino church. I was thinking it might get a little messy, but I
mhm.
think, well, we're going to visit tomorrow and just make sure they're not going to do it anymore.
Hmm.
There's been a lot
wow.
of churches throughout the country who have sort of fought this,
Yeah.
and that's the last thing we want to be dealing with in Marin is like, us, writing a citation to a church. But the only reason we'd ever do that is if Rod were in a church. We'd cite the heck out of him.
Yeah, Dave actually would have the padlock on the door, I'm afraid.
Fast as I could.
I have no doubt.
There's Scott.
Yeah. Hi,
Hey,
Scott.
Scott, how are you?
It looks like you're upstairs in your A-frame.
Yep.
That's great. Scott lives in Tahoe, Fairfax.
Well, that's nice. You kind of close your eyes and use your imagination.
It really does look like a house that's up there. You know, it really does.
What are you watching, Dave, behind you?
So I'm gonna see if anybody can figure it out. It's kind of washed out a little bit.
Well, that's one of the old movies.
Yeah. let's see
Yeah,
it.
I don't do old movies. You
Oh my
got me.
God, we watch this multiple times every holiday.
Oh, that's fun.
What's a good old movie?
Hey
Mike
guys,
Stereo, as I live and breathe.
Miracle on 34th
That's where he
Street?
is. Dave Donnery. I
How
think it's
are
been
you,
since
man?
March since I've seen you at the gym.
Seriously. I got to go back in for like a month and a half and then they shut her down again.
Yeah, I talked to Andy a couple of times. We ran into each other at baseball games and what have you for the kids.
Yeah.
He
Ron's
told me to go
waving.
back.
Yeah, Clark was happy that it was come back and then slammo whammo, they shut it down again.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's too
But it
bad.
really wasn't the safest
What's the
place, you
one
know.
where he gets-
There's some people in there that don't adhere, if you know what I mean, including Steve, who's no longer at the facility.
Yeah, I heard there was quite a kerfuffle.
Yeah,
Oh.
a fracas.
Were you there for it?
I wasn't, unfortunately. I would have paid, actually.
Great. Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. It's out of your family for me.
Yeah, I will. Same to you.
Miracle 34th, and it's a wonderful life.
Is it a Miracle on 34th Street?
Absolutely
I think
not.
it is.
It's,
Oh,
it's
it's
a
not?
Wonderful Life.
It's a wonderful life. If you don't watch this at least once in your life, you're missing out.
And Dave, you should follow that with Christmas Vacation.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's on the list. The kids are finally old enough to deal with Chevy Chase. You know, we watched Fletch the other night. Fletch is a
Oh,
classic.
Right.
Die Hard. That's Christmas movie.
Yeah, Die Hard said, Dennis said Die Hard's the best Christmas movie.
That's what my kids say.
just
Die
watched
Hard.
that.
What's his name?
Watched it too. I
John
didn't see all the Christmas in it.
McLean.
McClane. Nice. With all the hair back then.
Let's see.
Vance, you looked like you were nestled nicely up on Fade. That was a great picture.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's fun. My sister-in-law's visiting and her daughter took a picture of us. Which I thought was
That
nice.
was really nice. Really
Showed our
nice
best
shot.
sides too, you know?
You look so young from behind.
Yeah, right. It looks like I have a lot of hair too.
So, actually, Scott, is Sean coming?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I ran into Steve Berto and he said he was going to show up.
Yeah, I talked to Steve. Yeah, he'll be here. There's Ryan. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey guys, how you
Hey,
doing?
Good to see you.
Ryan.
Good to see you.
Hey, Eric.
Hello.
Let's see, is Maya here? Oh, Maya's here. Oh, good. I think, how are we doing on time, Danielle? Pretty close?
Yeah, it's 7 o'clock. It's 7:01.
Okay, well, let's start. Well, greetings, everyone. Season's greetings, that is. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Rod Kerr, the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We're doing this in a little different format. This is a webinar format tonight. And I'd like to call the meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission to order and welcome Dave and Scott this evening. And who else do we have from anyone else?
I think Steve just signed on.
Oh, did he? Okay. And oh, Steve, good to see you. Thanks for
And
joining.
I think
tonight.
Christina wanted to make a few comments, Rod.
No, I just
Okay.
was asking if I should make Steve a panelist instead of an attendee, but never mind. I did it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. That takes care of that. So let's do a roll call. Mike Serio,
Present.
Vance Frost,
Here,
Jen Trahan,
Here.
Ryan LaFrance,
Present.
Jan Wu,
Here.
Maya Lynch, and Eric O'Vera.
Here.
There we are, 9 out of 9. I told you, Dave, this is a responsible group.
It's very impressive. Thank you all for spending a December night with Rod.
Exactly. Well, it would have been okay if we were in Creekside, but it's a different year this year.
Certainly.
Okay, so has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the November 17 meeting? Any comments, additions, modifications? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
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 Oppose? All right, hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved. That brings us to time for open public expression. I don't think there's anyone. No, Christina? Okay, so we'll hold that open until the end of the meeting. That brings us to the first action item, which is the Memorial Park field repairs. And we have a staff report in connection with that. And it's my understanding, Danielle, you and Scott will be making the presentation.
Yes, I will go ahead and go through the staff report, which, and then I'll turn it over to Public Works to discuss in detail the project.
Okay, so let me just kind of outline the process that we'll use in connection with this particular item. So Danielle and Scott will discuss the report itself. And then we will open it to questions from the commissioners to Danielle and Scott. And then if there's any public comment, if any additional people appear, they can comment. And then the discussion will come back to the commission with respect to the repair plan. And then there'll be a vote on the recommendation. So with that, Danielle, floor is yours.
Okay, so good evening, commissioners, and tonight before you, we have a proposal for a Memorial Park Plainfield repair project. We are asking the commission to consider the Memorial Park Plainfield repairs project and provide a recommendation to town council. In 1924, the town of San Anselmo acquired 7 acres of land and built the recreation park that we now know as Memorial Park. The baseball fields were installed, and in 1933, the American Legion and Boy Scouts built the log cabin. Over the years, components like the playground, picnic areas, tennis courts, a community-based garden, and most recently the skate park were added. And aside from these additions, we have not done any major work on the park or renovations. In 2018, the town council approved the Memorial Park master plan. The plan had been developed over an 18-month period and included a comprehensive community input process. In 2019, Measure M was placed on the ballot. Measure M called for a tax on each residential unit in San Anselmo for a term of 30 years. The tax would have funded the implementation of the master plan and provided ongoing maintenance funding for the park. Measure M was rejected by voters in November of 2019. With the defeat of Measure M, staff has been considering how best to utilize the limited funds we have available. The 2 sources we have are with the county sales tax parks fund, also known as Measure A, and the state bond for parks, which is Proposition 68. Together, these 2 sources add up to $625,000 available for repairs at the park. In June 2018, it's important to note that the staff worked with the Tramatolo Group and the True North Research to conduct a public opinion poll regarding Memorial Park. The respondents ranked the importance of the different components within the park. The primary interest was related to the areas of the park that were considered common areas and are enjoyed by a wide variety of users. The common areas are the playing fields and the meadow adjacent to the picnic area. The playing fields are the largest component of the Memorial Park. These facilities include 3 baseball, softball fields, and skin dirt infields, and large natural turf area that is used for baseball outfields, soccer practices, games, for many camps, classes, and activities that are offered by our department. The playing fields and meadow receive by far the greatest usage in the park and need substantial improvements to protect the health and safety of our users. Aside from the playing fields and the meadow, which are widely used, there are many components that need improvements. These include the playgrounds, tennis courts, Elders Garden, the skate park, basketball court, and basketball courts. While all the areas of park need improvements, staff recommends that priority be given to the playing fields and the meadow, given the heavy usage and urgent need for repairs. When we jump down, I'm going to leave the analysis portion to Public Works, but we jump down to the fiscal impact. And again, to review it, the town has two sources of money that adds up to Measure 8 funds and Proposition 68 that add up to $628,000. This leaves a gap of $47,000, which can be funded either by the general fund or by adopting it in the fiscal year 21-22 budget through Measure D funds. I hesitate to jump to the timetable before we talk about, let's talk about, Scott, do you want to talk about the project specifically? And then we can go back to the timetable.
Sure. So we've been working with the landscape architecture firm of Abby Arnold and working very closely with Peter Arnold. And he was the one who did a lot of the work for the whole park remodel. And when we asked him to come up with a scope for a project that matched our funding and that was what seems like the most critical area. So he's been looking at completely renovating the playing field area as well as the picnic area just to the north of that. And so the project consists of tilling all the grass there and incorporating it all into a level that's going to be smoothed out and then reseeded and new irrigation put in. And then the field would be left over the winter to grow the grass and then put back in service in the spring. And so we've been working with Peter on all the different design elements to make sure that the drainage is improved out there so we don't have any soggy spots in the winter, and that he's looking very closely at the placement of all the irrigation heads to make sure we have complete coverage. And then the way we're going to be scoping the project or putting the plans together is that so the picnic area will be an alternate bid, and we can see how the bids come in, because right now the engineer's estimate is slightly above the available funding. But at this point, the engineer's estimate has a 15% contingency. And as the plans get more detailed and we get more towards the final design plans, the contingency usually comes down. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to do both of those project elements with the funding, but we like to be careful with that. And so we will have an alternate bid. And so we'll have the ability, if bids come in high, that we'll be able to just do what we can afford.
I can
Want to go to
go
the
ahead.
timetable?
I was just going to go over the timeline.
Okay.
So we are coming to the commission in December, and the item will go before town council in January. In February, the plans and specifications will be completed and it will be put out to bid. In May, the town council would award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder. In August, we would start the repairs and they would be finished by November 2021. And we would keep the fields closed until March 2022. And obviously this would affect recreation programming, which would be the most affected program would be our soccer program, which we would relocate to using Ross Valley School District fields as well as Red Hill. And we're confident we can do that since COVID proved to us that we can be super creative and get things done. So we're confident we can do that and provide a good season to everyone. And so the conclusion is there, but basically that park is going to be 100 years old in 2026. And we're really hoping that we can improve this huge component, the fields. We get so much usage out of it as a department and as a community. So with that, I think unless Dave has further comment, we could open it up to questions, or I'll turn it back to you, Rod.
Okay. Dave, did you want to add anything?
No, just I wanted to thank Danielle for the report and Scott as well. You know, as everybody knows, this this project's probably 50 years overdue. So we're pretty excited to be able to, make those fields last a little bit longer. And, one of the considerations that we're talking about is, with any athletic field, the real damage happens in the winter. So one of the things that we're probably gonna have to contend with from here on out, once we do the work, is kind of shutting it down beginning when the rains start coming in November. So that's something that we've been talking about with Public Works. But what's nice about that is we'll be able to get through soccer season probably before we need to do that. But we're probably going to be looking at I'd say a November through March closure cycle, which is going to be new to the town. So we'll have to be sort of upfront about that. But I think it's something that's imperative to keep this huge investment in the best shape possible. So thanks.
Okay.
Dave, is that something that is common in other towns?
It is. It's actually turf management. We've never had we kind of have our field now. It's not a high grade. There's a lot of clover in there. It's something we really haven't managed in that way. But with the complete redo, which, like I say, I don't remember it ever. In my lifetime, it's never happened. It's basically called resting the field. If you have multiple fields, you rest and rotate and give them a chance to kind of, they go dormant in the winter, so you can do a lot of damage if you start running over there and causing mud, and you can do root damage. And so yeah, it's very common in turf management if you ask anybody. It's just not something we've practiced. In some fields there's a rule that if it's sloshy to the touch of your foot, don't go on it. But as that's not something that everybody's going to adhere to. So, we could try an orange fence system, which is relatively inexpensive, and hope people kind of abide by it, and then take it from there. I used to manage a field in Santa Fe that we tried the orange fence treatment, and it just didn't work. So we ended up basically enclosing over a number of years of saving money, enclosing the whole field in a very nice black vinyl clad chain link fence with openings. And when the summer comes, there's a bunch of gigantic openings. The fence almost disappears, but it's a way to control the use. And I don't think we're there needing that kind of system, but I do think that we're going to have to start thinking about, I look at Steve when I talk about this. I'm guilty of some mud football games, and I'm sure we're not very when the field people came out, they weren't very happy, because it really just makes the grass disappear when spring comes.
Yeah.
So there's a long answer.
Well, and if you looked at attachment number 1, what it does is it shows you the areas of the field that are going to be repaired. And there's sort of the black line, if you will, that runs around the perimeter. So in effect, what Peter Arnold has done is he has lifted the playing fields and the picnic meadow from the master plan, and that's what's being done. So it's simply that's the drainage. It's replacing the irrigation system, which is going to be relocated. It'll be a completely new irrigation system. And then there will be turf put down. And so the key for the future really is going to be adequate maintenance, which is going to require that the field be aerated on a regular basis, dethatch it, replace the worn areas. And if we do that, in talking with Peter this afternoon, he anticipates that we will easily get 10 plus years and maybe 15 or 20 years out of just the turf alone. The irrigation system, he projects at 30 to 50 years. So this is a long-term investment. It's within our financial means, and it's just critically essential. And of course, one of the issues that one could raise is, why are we doing the fields as opposed to other areas such as the playground or the skate park? And the explanation really is, this is the area that gets the most use, and we want to address any health and safety issues immediately. So, you know, there is a slight gap. You know, there's $625,000 roughly between Measure A and Prop 68. We may be able to look to the general fund. We may be able to look to Measure D in the next fiscal year. But this is a worthwhile investment. And to the extent that we could do all of the grass area, that includes the picnic meadow, this is the time to do it, because it would be the most efficient and economical to do the entire area in a single project. So any other questions with respect to the plan? You'll notice that Danielle has included a cost breakdown by category, and also the 75% drawings, which frankly, I looked at them. They're a little hard to decipher because of the level of detail, but it reflects the degree of thought that has gone into the project. And in effect, when you go out and look at the field today, you've got dips and valleys and mounds, and which create all kinds of issues for kids and adults using the field. So it's going to be essentially leveled so that it'll be a more stable footing for people. The drainage will be draining towards the edges. There are going to be drainage basins. There will also be drainage around the perimeter of the infields. That'll be right where the turf meets the infield itself. So hopefully that will preserve the infields. So a lot of thought has gone into it, and it's I think it's really just an essential project for the town.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there any difference between this current plan and the plan that we had pulled together based on the budget we thought we'd have via Measure M? And if so, is there anything we're excluding?
No, when we look at drainage, irrigation, and turf, this is essentially lifted from the Measure M proposal. Mm-hmm. What this doesn't include, of course, is there's no work being done on the dugouts, mm-hmm. no work being done on the bleachers, no work being done in the restrooms. Mm-hmm. This is simply really the turf and skinned area of the fields. Mm-hmm. And that's what really allows us to do it within our budgetary constraints.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So with regards to the other areas, I am excited about this project. I just want to say that I'm supportive of it, but wondering if we have any visibility on funding or the ability to do any of the other areas of the park in the out years, or if that's just on the back burner for now.
So the thinking is, assuming that the commission makes the recommendation to go forward for the town council, is to put the skate park and the playground on our agenda in January or February, maybe in one and maybe one on the other, but to begin to address those areas in particular. And we do have some trailing funds that come in on Measure A that may be available. A lot will depend on what the bids look like. And we'll have a good idea on those probably. What do you think, Scott? Sometime in March, if we get it out in mid-February?
Yeah, March or April, we should.
March or April, okay. Because we do have some trailing funds there with Measure A.
And it is possible Measure A will get renewed. We just don't know the answer to that question yet.
Yes, that would probably go on the ballot. Dave, what do you think? Would it be November of next year?
I would guess, yeah, they want to, you always want to give it a year before it expires, so you have 2 bites at it. Steve knows that.
Yeah.
So I would say, Steve, you're about to say something?
Steve, did you want to make a?
Would you do it in 2021? Because there's not going to be an election really.
No, I think it would be 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives you an idea that, if it goes on the ballot, then, the funding's not available immediately. So, we had a very substantial reserve in the recreation department budget, which we no longer have as a result of the pandemic. But it doesn't mean that we are not concerned. I think we as a commission, and I know the staff is very concerned about the other areas of Memorial Park, and we need to address those. I think getting this launched is critical, and to me, it's where most of the activity is. We're going to be addressing it really in a year from March. We're going to have a fabulous field. But during that period between now and when that field reopens in March of 2022, we need to come up with solutions for the playground and the skate park and the tennis courts, frankly. So we've got a lot of work. Yeah, Danielle.
Follow up on, sorry, Rod, to follow up on Rod's comments that we're going to agendize the skate park and playground. I think the idea behind that is the skate park committee is down to 2 members. And so we definitely need to reinvigorate that. And we have $22,000 in that fund to work with and to make limited improvements, but improvements to make it safe for our community. And then also to create a feedback group or a working group on the playground. So I think when he says you'll see us continue to work on other components of the park, that's what what Rod and I have discussed offline, is bringing that before you and really starting to reach out to our community.
Yeah, the thinking is just 1 second, Steve. The thinking here really is to put together a smaller group that is going to focus on these areas so that we begin to look at alternatives, look at funding sources, and work out a timeline for making improvements to those areas. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would echo a lot of what Dave and Rod said, especially with respect to, the other areas of the park. I know in particular, the playground is one that a lot of people, want to know about. And, right now the fields are the priority because that's where the usage is. And there is, there has been as part of these discussions, definitely a plan to address the playground. And, one of my fellow council members, mentioned that at a recent meeting, that, we were going to be addressing that. And so I think, there's definitely a commitment to address those areas of the park. I think we're looking at this in kind of a project in stages, and certainly we're doing the fields first, and that's going to be stage 1. And we feel confident about the funding. There's a little bit of a shortfall depending on how the timeline mets out. There's either general fund or other Measure D funds from a future year that we could use. So we're not really concerned about the funding for the fields, but for the playgrounds, there is going to have to be some fundraising, and we're prepared to do that. We have a C3 set up, for this purpose, and I think we'll be in a good position to do it. But frankly, just want to say another couple of things. One, a lot of credit to Rod, Scott, Sean, Peter Arnold. In terms of the budget element of this, there was definitely some gymnastics done. And, at one point, because prices fluctuate and everything like that, and the process changes, and there was a point where we didn't know if we could do all this, but really everybody, kind of came together and came up with this plan, and we feel really, really confident. As Scott mentioned, there's a 15% contingency, and hopefully that comes down, once the bids come in. But I think the process is solid here. The other thing that, we all know what happened with Measure M, and there was a lot of divisiveness around this, and one of the, I think, really the success stories from this is that this is kind of the yes on M and the no on M people kind of came together, and that's the product that you have before you tonight, that we're looking for your recommendation on. This really has been a labor of love. Everybody's been on the same page, and we expect this to really move smoothly through the process. But a lot of the credit goes to staff and Rod, and frankly, this commission, because as Dave knows and as Rod knows, we started this work years ago. We started this work back in 2012, squirreling money away for the park. And this is finally the fruits of our labor. And, it's not Measure M, it's not, what we dreamt about, but it's definitely something practical and something that's going to serve our community well for years to come. So kudos to everybody. And I hope that you vote to recommend this project to us on the town council. And I look forward to moving it forward.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Steve. And we want to thank you not just for your comments tonight, but for your work in connection with Measure M, and frankly, all of those meetings that led up to the approval of the Memorial Park Master Plan. And also to Dave. We went to a lot of public meetings over a period of 2 years. And frankly, it was not for naught. What you're seeing tonight with the repair of the playing fields, we really have lifted that component right from the master plan. So while it's just a piece, it's a major piece. It's the lion's share of the park. It's going to look terrific. It's going to perform well for decades to come, and frankly, for generations to come. So I think it's a good beginning. We'll do the work on the playground. I've actually talked with Maya and Eric, who are both very interested in working on the skate park. And Steve and I met with Lisa Graham at Memorial Park weeks ago, and which led to me going to Mill Valley and looking at their skate park, and the potential for a restored, or actually a new skate park, I think is very exciting. So there are a lot of good things that are happening at Memorial Park with this initiative, and with the initiatives that we'll be taking in the future. So any other comments or discussion about
I've got
the
one other
plan?
quick question, Rod.
Yeah, Mike.
In terms of ongoing maintenance, are we going to see any impact to the budget going forward?
Scott, I know that Sean has been looking at this issue, and you would probably know more of the details there of maybe having several people, or one or two people, that are sort of dedicated, if you will, to Memorial Park and sort of responsible. I don't know exactly what's happened on that front. Do you?
And with regards to ongoing maintenance, typically for, say, things like a roof or a car, the older it gets, the more maintenance you have to put in there, replacing the tires, or you're patching the holes in your roof before you do a complete re-roof. With the park, our staff has had to deal with issues like malfunctions in the irrigation system, where they have to dig things up or replace the heads or things like that. It hasn't been a huge financial outlay, I would say, but it does take their time and efforts. And with the new renovated field, there'd be many years that they wouldn't have to deal with those kinds of issues, but they would still have the general maintenance of mowing the fields and putting up the fences at the appropriate times in the fall, and doing all the typical things that they've done. So I don't see that there's a big reduction in the maintenance costs. Because like I said, most of it's the ongoing mowing and that type of maintenance.
And I'll just, if I could jump in, I had the exact question for Sean, Mike, and I think Scott cleared it up pretty well. It's going to be easier to maintain to some degree, but also that's what I mentioned before, and what Rod elaborated on was having that extra step of aeration in the fall and dethatching and giving it a rest is part of that maintenance plan. What we normally do, when the field's in use, is we mow it and we make sure the water's, getting on there evenly, and it's sort of a kind of a routine. But what we haven't done is this new step, and we're not expecting to lose any staff in the Parks Department, and I think that we have based on conversations we've had and some of the work we're doing with the Public Works Department staff, we feel we have adequate staffing to be able to really make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure that the guys will appreciate not having to go down there and fix the irrigation valves.
Well, and some of this irrigation is what did you say? That's 6 feet deep or something, Ron?
Yeah, the main line is actually 4 feet deep. So just to access it is a huge problem.
So
The main line is going to be replaced, and all the laterals are being replaced, and so the coverage should be terrific, actually. When we replaced the soccer fields in Berkeley years ago, they've been maintained properly, and it's remarkable. I mean, that turf has lasted decades and today is in good shape. It's a result of maintaining it on a regular basis, aerating it, dethatching it, replacing the worn spots, irrigating it properly. And, it's really part of the routine maintenance that needs to be done so that you get the longevity out of the fields. And it's a long-term savings, frankly. So, any other questions for any of the staff? Okay. Any further discussion that we need? It looks like we're ready to vote. Could I have a motion to recommend to the town council approval of the repair plan for the playing fields as outlined in the staff report?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call each person's name. If you could just indicate yes, no, or abstain, just so that we have the record, since it is a substantial financial commitment we're asking the town council to take on. Mike Serio?
Yes.
Vance Frost?
Yes.
Jen Trahan?
Yes.
Ryan LaFrance?
Yes.
Jan Wu?
Yes.
Maya Lynch?
Yes.
Okay. Eric Overa?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So it's unanimous on the part of the Parks and Rec Commission. I think it's terrific. Yes. Thank you, everybody. It's been a long-term effort, and I'm glad it's moving forward. I think it's terrific. And Dave, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Same, Scott, thank you. And
thank all of you, Rod, and happy holidays to everybody.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Dave.
nice to
Good
see
night.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
Yep, Steve,
Happy
thank
holidays,
you.
Dave and Scott.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to the financial report. Danielle?
Yes, so tonight before you is the November 30th, 2020 financial report, and 42% of our fiscal year has gone by, and we are listed at 29% of projected revenues and 34% of our projected expenditures. As you all know, the county public health order for COVID-19, which has changed recently, but has been with us since March, has restricted our operations, and enrollment for recreation programs is down across the county. These numbers may improve when children go back to school in the new year, when hopefully the county changes to better tiers again, and with the possibility of a vaccine. But we currently have a deficit of 106,000 plus 106. Why is it so hard to say that all in one line? $106,603,000. And we are using the reserve funds, as Rod mentioned, that we had to balance our budget. In addition, I am in constant communication with Dave and Helen to discuss our operations for 2021. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Danielle, could you remind me again what the balance of the reserve fund is?
The reserve fund is a little bit over $400,000.
Okay.
And I'm expecting that, I mean, if you average this out, it's about a little over $20,000 per month. And most of our income is coming from sports and from Parkside Preschool. We also have other programs going, but we're paying the instructors out, so we only get a percentage of the income. But most of our expenses are staffing costs. And the staff has done a really good job of utilizing our current supplies and not spending money. Obviously, there's supplies, there's certain things we have no choice to buy. Most of those go along with sports, but so that's where we're at right now. And I expect December will have a large deficit because we're closed for half of it. And, it's not a very healthy month. And January, I expect that the closure will be extended. If I don't know the future, but I'm expecting that the current shutdown might last past the 4th of January based on numbers and the holidays.
Yeah, I think the likelihood is actually very high.
Yeah.
The county was down to a single bed in the ICU unit as of yesterday. And I assume that bed has probably been taken today. So the county is in a difficult situation. It's going to result, I think, in the shelter in place order being extended. But I wanted to make a couple of observations. The first is I think the town has made a commendable decision when it decided to keep the staffing at its current level, because under these conditions and the economic constraints, it's in some respects, it's easier to either lay people off or reduce staffing in some fashion. And I was pleased to see that the town made the decision that it did. In addition, these programs, our recreation programs, are hugely successful. And it's important during this period to involve as many kids and adults as we can so that the community knows that we're still active. Because what happens is if you lose people now, you don't just lose them for this period, you often lose them going forward as well. So I think Danielle and her staff have done a tremendous job in maintaining our programming through what has been an unimaginably difficult period. I mean, we had, what is it, Danielle, close to 1,000 kids from July 1st through the present?
Oh, we're well over 1,000. We're probably at 1,400 kids.
Yeah,
at this
I mean,
point.
it's remarkable. I mean, think about all the complications that the schools are encountering. And, that Danielle and her staff has successfully brought 1,300 or 1,400 kids into our programs. I think it's a commendable performance. And I think the fact that we're running the deficit that we did, it's when I look back on the last 4 years that I've been on the commission and look how hard we worked and how hard really Danielle and her staff worked to build that reserve that we did, that she just talked about. It's a shame the pandemic is cutting into it, but frankly, thank goodness we had it, because what we're doing is we're protecting people's jobs and we're maintaining programs for our community. And I'm glad it was there to do that. Anything else on the financial report? Okay. With that, I guess what we should do is we'll just do a verbal. Is there a motion to approve the financial report? I hear a motion. Brian?
I'll motion.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor of approving the financial report, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, oppose, it's approved. Okay, Danielle, where do we go next? Staff
So-
update?
Yeah, so a few updates. The department will be closed starting, we officially closed with the new, let me start back with the new order. We closed the offices last week. And so we are no longer open to the public, and we will not reopen until it's safe and the orders change from the state. That being said, staff is to keep, not too much crowding. And this has been the trend of the town, and what it kind of came top down, that certain staff work certain days from home and certain staff work certain days in the office, so that we try to control exposures and it's not too crowded in the offices. With that being said, we are closing for the season, and staff will be using their furlough hours starting the 21st. Monday the 21st will reopen on January the 4th. So that's the winter closure. Some program updates. Parkside Preschool was closed last Thursday because there was 2 individuals whose family members tested positive for COVID. We did not have to close, but the decision was made to close to be extra cautious. So we are closed. It was 7 school days that we lost, and they'll be given credits for August. But everyone, we haven't gotten the test results, so we don't know if there's any actual exposure in the cohorts, because the doctors are having people wait their 10 days. And so some people have gone out and gotten tested. We've gotten a lot of negative results, but the 2 actual individuals who were exposed, we have not gotten their results yet. So that happened. And then also we got the new sports protocols. The state released new sports protocols yesterday, and I was very worried about that, but happy when I read them that we can continue operating as we have been, which is basically doing social distancing, drills, that type of interaction with kids. We have gone to 100% masking, even if they're outside, and but they cannot scrimmage. So that hasn't changed. But they also put out tiers for, it's more related to high school sports and traveling teams, but when competitive sports can start. And so there's a whole chart on that. So, but we're good with recreation for now.
Good.
Mhm.
Good. Okay, this is bringing us close to the end of the meeting. Are there any other items that people would like on the January agenda? We talked about the playground and the skate park coming on in either January or February. And then if all of you would give some thought to whether you'd like to serve on a subcommittee related to either of those, or the tennis courts, for example, that would be terrific, because I think what we'll do is we'll be putting together some form of committee or subcommittee to give thought to what we can do in those areas, how we're going to fund it, and what the timetable would be. And in the case of the playground, for sure, we will be doing some public meetings. So give some thought to whether you'd like to participate in one of those. Let me know, or bring it up at the next meeting. Is there anything else anyone would like, anything specific they'd like to see on the agenda? And we'll also keep you posted, obviously, on progress with the Memorial Park. We will meet before it goes to the town council. It's going to the town council probably at their January 28th meeting.
And in the at the January meeting, Open Space will be giving their report, which will be lengthy. So they're the main agenda item, and we'll probably bring the park committees in February because it's such a quick turnaround to get everything ready once we return on the 4th. So
True.
Those will probably come in February.
Okay. When is Santa making his rounds in town?
You're right. I didn't update you on that. It's been so popular. I got this great email from this woman, and I'll have to forward it to you all tomorrow, but it was just the sweetest thing. She said she was walking along and she saw a girl with a pink bike, and she thought it was just an emergency because there was a fire truck, and that all of a sudden she saw Santa, and she said, I started crying like I'm 60 years old. Like it was the first time I ever saw Santa. Just, seeing them out in the community made me so happy. And I was just as excited as the girl on the 5-year-old on her pink bike. It was the greatest email. I'll forward it to you guys.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
Cool.
wonderful. Well, it's moments like that that are very uplifting in this challenging period. So I think that's just terrific. With that, before we adjourn, Danielle, thank you to you and Christina and all of your staff for the great job you've done during this very, very difficult period. I mean, it is impressive.
Here, here.
Definitely. And with that, everyone, I hope everybody has a healthy and happy holidays, and we will see everybody in the new year. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you, Rod.
holidays,
Good night.
everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
I wish we were
Bye.
eating pizza and drinking wine.
I wish we were there too. We'll do it.
No.